Evelyn Harper was a beautiful and wealthy woman, the CEO of Harper Estates. She lived alone in a large penthouse high above the city. Her home had many rooms, closets full of designer clothes and shoes, and a team of people who took care of everything for her. She had a chef who cooked her meals, assistants who cleaned, answered her calls, and even one who chose her outfits each day so she never wore the same thing twice. Evelyn could buy anything she wanted. Her name often appeared in the newspapers with headlines like, "Evelyn Harper's new tower wins another award," or "Billionaire Evelyn opens a stunning new estate." Everyone knew who she was. People smiled and applauded when she entered a room. Life seemed perfect. But even with all her money, Evelyn's heart felt empty. She was lonely, a workaholic who rarely made friends, feeling that most people around her were fake. Whenever she came home from work, she either continued working or had a glass of wine alone before bed. She sat alone most nights, staring at the city lights. She had everything: money, power, respect, but there was a vacuum money could not fill. She often thought of her only son, Benjamin, whom her relationship with her work had pushed away. She blames herself for the boy's wish to have nothing to do with her. "I pushed everyone away," she whispered to the empty room, with tears in her eyes. Little did she know, someone was about to change everything, unlocking something she'd locked away long ago. Each morning, different luxury cars took Evelyn to work, and her driver, Daniel, opened the door, saying, "Good morning, ma'am." Daniel, in his mid-30s, had short brown hair, brown eyes, and a reserved smile. To Evelyn, he was dependable and polite, but invisible. She never considered his aspirations or the reason for his warm laugh. He was like a shadow in her routine, who blended seamlessly into the background, unnoticed beyond his role as her driver, as if his presence were no more significant than the car's interior or the sound of its engine. She never considered his thoughts, actions, or reactions, or the life he led outside her drive to the office and back home. She didn't even know his last name. One evening, after a long day, she searched her penthouse for her tablet, certain she'd brought it from the office. It held investor notes, schedules, her lifeline to work. Not finding it, she called Daniel, who'd driven her home. It went to voicemail. She left a message, her voice sharp. "Daniel, I need my tablet. Call me back." She tried again. No answer. A little irritation hit, but then something else, a strange feeling, like missing a step on a staircase. He always answers, she thought. Daniel was never late, never unavailable. His silence felt wrong, almost personal. She stood by her window, phone in hand, realizing how little she knew about him. Who was this man she saw every day? The question lingered, stirring a restlessness she couldn't shake. The next morning, Daniel handed her the tablet as she approached the car. "Found it in the back seat when I cleaned the vehicle this morning, ma'am." "My apologies," Daniel said. She took it, noticing his red eyes and tired face. "I called last night. It was urgent." "You didn't see my messages?" she asked. He shifted as he replied, "I got them late, ma'am. Had to attend to personal matters." "Won't happen again." "Personal matters?" The phrase hung in the air. She nodded and got in, but her mind stayed on him. In the mirror, his jaw was tight, focused elsewhere. "You okay, Daniel?" she asked. "Fine, me." "Just a long night." His voice was polite, guarded. That moment, the unanswered call, his vague excuse, stayed with her. It was the first crack in the invisible wall she'd built around her staff, around herself. Why did she care? Maybe because Daniel's reliability had been a quiet anchor in her chaotic days, and its brief absence made her notice him as a person, not a function. There was a noticeable shift in how she saw Daniel from that moment, from invisible to someone worth noticing, just because her routine was shaken. It forced her to see him as a human with his own life outside working for her, rather than just a reliable employee. Before this tablet incident, Daniel blended perfectly into her life. Always punctual, always answered calls, and never drew attention to himself. But this had made her notice him, and she couldn't help but wonder who Daniel was when he was not driving her around. For the next couple of days, Evelyn watched Daniel closely. She noticed things she had never seen before. He skipped lunch and packed it to eat later, but she never saw him eat it. "You always pack lunch but never eat it here," Evelyn said as they were going home. This was the third day since she noticed he didn't eat lunch. Saving it for later? She continued. Yes, ma'am, he said. I eat better at home. Where's home for you anyway? She asked. Not far. Quiet spot outside downtown. He stopped there. She noted how he deflected specifics. She noticed he held himself back, so he didn't say more. Some days later, she saw how, whenever idle, he stared into space, lost in thought. So, stuck in traffic one day, Evelyn tried to find out why. You ever take a day off, Daniel? You're always here, she asked. I love to keep my mind busy. You take days off, he asked. Rarely. Work's my life, she paused. What keeps you going outside of this? Just responsibilities. Keeps me occupied enough, he said. She wondered what that meant. Later, she saw him staring out the window during a break, lost in thought. She also noticed some days later the way and manner he disappeared immediately after dropping her at home, never hanging around the compound. One time, as he opened her door, Evelyn said, Thanks for the ride. You heading straight home? She asked. Yeah, usual routine. Good night, ma'am, he said, and immediately left. This was the usual. He never hung around after he dropped her, unlike her previous drivers. He was always in a hurry to close and go home. She saw that he jumped at loud noises like car horns and sirens always. On one of the afternoon drives home, as they passed a busy street, a car horn blared, and Evelyn saw Daniel's hands tighten on the wheel for a moment. Those horns get to you? She asked lightly. Not really. They're just a little too loud, he relaxed, but she noted the quick jump. You seem like you've got a lot on your mind, she said. Just the usual, ma'am. You got plans this weekend? He asked. Work, probably. You, she replied. Just errands. Keeping busy, he didn't give more details. A siren wailed past almost immediately, and he tensed slightly again, just for a second. She saw it. Another morning, she had caught him looking at a photo that he quickly hid when she approached. She usually ignored it whenever she saw him do it before. She wondered what and who was in the photo, so she decided to ask this time. Evelyn spotted a photo peeking from his pocket as she got in. That picture you carry someone special? She asked. Yeah, someone close. He tucked it away quickly, eyes on the road. Old friend? Family? She asked further. Something like that, he answered, smiling faintly. You carry any photos? He asked her. Not really. Lost that habit. She thought of her son, but didn't say it. She noticed he looked more tired today, his eyes redder than usual. Did something happen? Why did all these mysteries suddenly intrigue her? One day, after work, she rested her head during the drive home, but was woken by a lullaby. She heard him hum a soft song. A lullaby? From Daniel? Who was that for? She wanted to ask, but stayed quiet. For a kid? A lost love? A memory? The sound broke her heart. This spiked her curiosity even more, her mysterious, quiet driver. What was truly hiding behind those calm and polite smiles? Her curiosity sharpened. She didn't push, but the mystery grew. He never mingled with staff, always leaving right after dropping her off. His tired eyes and steady professionalism stood out more each day. Their small talks made her look forward to the drives. Daniel was reserved but kind, his brief answers hinting at a life she couldn't quite picture. By the week's end, she realized she was seeking these moments, piecing together the puzzle of who he was. She had talked to him in the last couple of days more times than she had spoken to any of her staff at all. One evening, she wanted to quickly grab water from her kitchen, but as she approached the big kitchen doors, she heard voices. She stood for some seconds and recognized the voices immediately. It was her housekeepers talking. She couldn't make out what they were saying, so she went closer to the kitchen doors. What she heard next is what finally made up her mind about getting answers to all the questions in her head. The driver walks to the bus stop after dropping Ms. Harper off. He doesn't even use the car, the housekeeper said. Must be Miles. Every night, the other one responded. Evelyn froze. She'd assumed he drove the car home. Why walk? That question, layered with the unanswered calls, the lullaby, the tired and red eyes, the attitude at work, the photo, pushed her over the edge. She considered an investigator, but dismissed it as excessive. Instead, she decided to follow him herself after work, a decision that would be the final crack in the invisible wall she had built around herself and her staff. That evening, after Daniel's "Goodnight, ma'am," she entered her penthouse, dropped her handbag and tablet in the living room area, and quickly went to the window facing the garage. She saw Daniel carefully parking the car in the car garage and closing it. Then the thought crossed her mind to quickly follow him and uncover all the mysteries behind him. She came outside of the big polished main door just in time to see Daniel, on foot, exiting the main gates. She quickly went to the garage and slipped into her SUV with tinted windows and honked for the gateman to open the gates, which he did immediately, and she drove out. Just as she made a bend heading to the main road, she spotted Daniel walking towards the bus stop. She slowed down and parked at the entrance, and after what seemed like 5 minutes, the bus came and Daniel entered. Evelyn followed the bus. She drove through busy streets that got smaller and darker, with buildings packed close together and looking old, not losing sight of the bus. Her hands were shaky because she was nervous. This place felt strange to her, but she was also a little excited she'd find answers to her questions. After about 20 minutes, the bus stopped in an old area. Daniel got off and walked on a broken sidewalk. Evelyn parked her car far away, got out, and followed him quietly on foot, her high heels making soft clicks as she hid behind cars and poles. She removed her heels and followed barefoot until she saw Daniel stop in front of an old building. He entered the old apartment building. Was this where he stayed? She went closer and saw a window she could look through to see what was happening inside. But she wasn't prepared for what she saw next. Inside, a small room glowed faintly. An older woman lay in a bed, medical tubes at her side. A young girl, maybe 8, sat at a table drawing. Daniel hung his coat and knelt by the woman, brushing her hair tenderly. Who were these people? "How's today, Mom?" he asked, adjusting her blanket. Mom? This was Daniel's mom? Was she sick? Why are all those tubes connected to her? What could be the problem? "Better when you're here," she said softly. The girl looked up. "Daddy, look at my drawing." Daddy? His daughter, perhaps? He crossed to her, lifting her in a hug. "Let me see. It's so beautiful, Lily. You're getting so good at this," he smiled tenderly. Lily laughed. Evelyn's breath caught. Daddy? This was his life, caring for a sick mother and a daughter. The weight of it struck her. This was his world. Her own world, penthouse, staff, headlines, felt empty by comparison. She thought of Benjamin, the years lost to ambition. Daniel's strength, unseen until now, stirred something deep. For a while, she watched Daniel cook, clean, and read to the girl, his every move gentle but heavy with exhaustion. Evelyn was deeply moved by his selfless love and strength, caring for his sick mother and daughter, Lily, even though he had just gotten back from work and might also need rest. Everything made sense now. The lullaby, the red eyes and tired looks, the times he was lost in thought. He was handling all of these and working to provide for his family, and didn't abandon his family. It struck a chord in her lonely heart, reminding her of the family she'd lost to her work obsession. She wanted to know them, to help somehow. She slipped back to her car, driving home in silence. Her penthouse felt too still. Sitting by the window, she replayed the scene. That jolt from his unanswered call had started it all, waking her to the man behind the wheel and the emptiness in her own life. What could she do with this knowledge? And what would come next? The next morning, Evelyn couldn't look at Daniel the same way. As he drove her to a meeting, she studied him. The lines on his face, the way his hands steadied the wheel. At a stoplight, she spoke, her voice softer than usual. "Daniel, is everything okay? You seem tired." He glanced at her in the mirror, surprised. "We all have our crosses to bear, ma'am," he said quietly. "I just don't want pity. Work keeps my mind busy and provides me with the little I can use to take care of needs." His words hit Evelyn like a wave. She nodded, unable to speak, and turned to stare out the window. That night, alone in her penthouse, Evelyn couldn't stop thinking. The hollowness in her chest grew heavier. Evelyn couldn't shake the image of Daniel's family. Her loneliness felt sharper, mirrored by memories of Benjamin. She thought of her son, Benjamin, who hadn't spoken to her in years. A flashback hit, Benjamin, 12, at his school play, scanning the audience for her. She'd been at a board meeting, promising next time. There hadn't been a next time. She'd chosen work over him too many times, missing his school plays, his birthdays, his life. Now he was grown, living across the country, and her calls went unanswered. Daniel's strength made her see her own life in a new light, a life full of wealth, but empty of love. Now, Daniel's devotion to Lily and his mother held a mirror to her regrets. The next day, Evelyn acted. She called a trusted friend who worked at a local charity and asked them to visit Daniel's neighborhood. "Find out what they need," she said, her voice firm but trembling. She gave her friend Daniel's address. "And don't mention my name. I'd like to stay anonymous." "I don't want to overstep," she added, acknowledging the ethical line she'd already crossed. A few days later, the friend reported back. Daniel's mother, Margaret, had late-stage cancer, and his daughter, Lily, was struggling in a school with no resources. Evelyn didn't hesitate. She arranged for Margaret to be moved to a private hospital room, her treatment fully funded. She set up a scholarship for Lily, ensuring she could attend a better school. She wrestled with her decision. Her wealth gave her power to help, but it also underscored the gap between her and Daniel. Was she meddling? Still, she couldn't ignore their need. When Daniel found out, he came to Evelyn's office, his eyes red again, but this time with gratitude. "Ms. Harper, the hospital. Lily's school. I know it was you. Mom. I can't repay you," he said, his voice breaking. Evelyn stiffened. Her anonymity had unraveled through a hospital administrator's mention of a Harper-linked foundation. "I didn't mean to pry," she said, voice low. "I saw your family, Daniel. I shouldn't have, but I wanted to help." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I don't know how to thank you. It's more than I could have hoped." She shook her head. "You already did," she said. "You reminded me what real strength looks like, what family means, and that nobody gets left behind." Margaret passed away soon after, her final days eased by better care. Evelyn attended the funeral, standing quietly in the back, watching Daniel hold Lily's hand. A memory surfaced. Daniel, months earlier, sharing a rare story during a drive about his mother teaching him to cook as a boy. "She made everything feel safe," he'd said. Now, Evelyn saw the safety in how he held Lily, and it stirred her resolve. She finally saw the man she had overlooked all these years. Months later, Evelyn sat in a coffee shop, her hands trembling as she dialed Benjamin's number. "I met someone who reminded me what family means," she told him, her voice thick with tears. Benjamin listened, and for the first time in years, he didn't hang up. He forgave her slowly, and they began to rebuild what they'd lost. Evelyn promoted Daniel to personal logistics manager, doubling his salary. She set up a trust fund for Lily's college, ensuring her future. Daniel tried to thank her, but Evelyn just smiled. "You changed my life too," she said. And as she watched Daniel drive away, his daughter's laughter echoing from the car, Evelyn felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope.